Today what I would like to talk about is what we have here. Not only the objects of support that I've talked about, but we have the stupas. I would like to explain to you the nature of the stupas. I would like to explain to you a little bit about the treasures in multiple that we have here. We have here these extraordinary stupas that have been built according to the ancient Payul tradition by a number of lamas, His Holiness, and then Rigzen Pema Rinpoche, Tuko Rigzen Pema, who was a renowned stupa builder. The stupas have been blessed by every lama that has come here, but they have been properly consecrated. About that, there is no doubt. The stupas have different levels, and ultimately, when they are born, that is to say, after they are completely built, and the lama actually generates the deity and all the objects of refuge, that is to say, the entire mandala of the deities, and descends that entire mandala into the stupa. The stupa becomes then a living presence. The stupa becomes like the body of the Buddha, like the Buddha in Nirmanakaya form, that is to say, in the physical form. On the bottom of the stupa, there are many objects there that indicate the things of the world to be overcome, such as objects of violence like knives and guns and weapons, and they are underneath, buried. And there are prayers and objects and images of suppression that go on top of that. And they suppress the things of the world that are harmful, including symbols of death, including symbols of, like there was, we fortunately at the time of the consecration of the filling of the Enlightenment stupa, His Holiness said, well, it would be good if we had the skull of a wolf to put down underneath there. I went, the skull of a wolf? In Maryland? So we were rushing around thinking, how in the world does one get the skull of a wolf? I mean, you know, trying to figure it out. And then we had the great good fortune, I guess, of a fox up the road got run over, and we had an intact fox skull. So we brought the poor little fox skull to His Holiness and said, would this do? And he looked, this is pathetic, look how small it is. Well, if that's what you call wolf in America, I guess it'll have to do. So it turns out the fox gets in there. But we have all these objects that, and that was the symbol of death. And we have symbols of old age, of sickness, of death, of all kinds of suffering, and the suppression of that. And then above that there are different layers. There is like the practices, generation stage practice, or beginning stage practice, generation stage practice, completion stage practice, accomplishment, and then there are the objects and prayers and mantras that are associated with all these different levels, wrapped in a very succinct way, arranged perfectly like the mandala of the deities. And it has to be arranged very perfectly. And it's all very secret and careful. Nobody can look in there unless they've been on the stupa diet, which is no animal flesh and no alcohol and no sexual activity and no ordinary stuff of any kind while you're building the stupa. And many gazillions, I don't even know how many, of mantras that are rolled so tight, some done by machine with saffron water sprayed on them because we could get them rolled tighter, and some of them done by students who themselves were reciting mantra at the same time they were rolling them very tightly and sticking to the stupa diet. So everything very carefully arranged, everything very perfect. No one should, you can't leave a drop of sweat or a bit of DNA in the stupa, unless you have achieved enlightenment, you know. So nobody gets to really climb in there without being clothed up and very, very careful. So when the Lama then brings the stupa to fruition, there is, of course, the vestibule in which the deity sits. And the deity itself is completely consecrated like that, like the deities on the altar. And they themselves have all the accomplishment figures in them. And then the relics are at the top. And some of them are wrapped up to the spine. That is a very large piece of wood with mantra written all over it, going down the middle. Some of them are wrapped, body, speech, and mind, mantra of enlightenment. And so then when the Lama descends the deities into the stupa is completely able to receive every blessing that the Lama is capable of conferring. All the materials are blessed, purified, and perfect. All the needs have been met. And the Lama that actually empowers the stupa is always a Lama of accomplishment. That is to say, Rigzen Pema Rinpoche is known as a stupa Lama and maintains the stupa diet always, and maintains retreat a lot of the time in order to keep the stupa-related accomplishments fresh in his mind, as though it were like fresh bread, you know, just right there at the tip of his tongue or the tip of his mind, however you would put it, able to be conferred. And then, of course, His Holiness Panor Rinpoche, who empowered the Enlightenment Stupa, is a living Buddha and is known worldwide as a living Buddha. And in Tibet, people gather the steps that he walks on, gather the dirt that he walks on, and save it and put it on their altars, his footprint even. And he never is not practicing. I've seen the way his mind works. He is like, well, he is a living Buddha. There's no other thing to say about it. And so now we have these amazing stupas. How amazing. So that even when the Lamas are not here, we have this occurrence. Yes, she's snoring. We have this occurrence of the living Buddha here on this property. And so that the living Buddha remains on this property.